Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. If your property gets damaged by a storm, it's nice to know there's a Kentucky Farm Bureau insurance agent in your hometown who's committed to making things right. Rain or shine, you can count on the great coverage and personal service you expect from Kentucky's insurance company. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going really good because I'm in sunny California.
Y'all, it's 31 degrees at home right now, and it's 80 in California.
It's so nice here. We've been walking around. It's like, I don't know, it's like dry and sunny and, you know, just wonderful with a nice breeze. And I've been texting my wife, and it's like snowing. It's literally snowing at times. It's doing all kinds of stuff. But we are at the American Farm Bureau annual meeting out in the middle of everything. People are giving us, you know, making faces at us, doing all kinds of stuff. I can give so
many shout outs. The Kaylors from McCracken County just, I think, gave us bunny ears. I'm not really sure what they did.
I think it's a bunny ear.
I tried to get Sam and Joe Sipes, Stacy and Fred L's kids, to just be our guests for the whole thing. They declined, which is unfortunate.
I saw the Gillis guy walking by. He wanted no part of being on the podcast.
He ran.
Yeah,
I think he ran.
Jim ran for the door. So, but yeah, we're right here right in the heart of the American Farm Bureau annual meeting. Very cool. We usually do podcasts in a nice quiet studio. So it's kind of neat to do it out in the open. Austin's doing all the real work, making sure this sounds great, and we're just over here talking. But we're going to be probably the next couple of weeks on the podcast. If you tune in, you'll hear some different interviews that we've done here, and we got a great one to kick it off for sure on this one.
Yeah, Joby's going to be awesome, but I do want to jump back a little bit because we're here and it's fun. I have had this dream of Radio Row since we started the podcast. Anybody, whatever, no free ads, but I'm a Pat McAfee gal. I used to listen to Mike and Mike, like all sports podcasts. And there is a week every year at Super Bowl, for anyone that doesn't know this, and they all set up at the Super Bowl arena area, and there's like, you just hear people walk by, and then they'll just run up to a mic and start talking on the mic, even if there's another guest. Are we there yet? Not quite, but Tim Tebow is supposed to be here at some point. I'm waiting. I think he's going to walk up and talk to us.
If Tebow walks by, I'll go tackle. No, I probably can't.
I would love to see you try to tackle Tim
Tebow. But we'll try. I'll tell you right now, celebrities walking by right now. Eddie Melton, President Eddie Melton.
Oh my gosh!
Walking by,
and Mary Kate Cordes, both walking by right now.
We're waving to them.
They're not waving back. They're running as well. Do you know what's funny? We don't have a camera. We just have microphones and our smiling faces, and people are running. I'm starting to think it might be us.
It might be us, which I get it. You know, it's a little scary. So, but no, this is neat. Doing it right out in the open. We're trying to just get people to see what we're up to and hear what we're talking about. And it's been a lot of fun. And yes, I get why people live in California. I will say that. I'll give them that.
Our next week's guest is going to really put a hard sale on how great California is. But there's our Tennessee staffers going by. I'm telling you, everybody's here.
This is very cool.
He's going to really sell it. Y'all, there's no humidity here.
There's nothing.
It's wild. Like, my hair has been really good. I know the guys really relate to that. It is very dry, so I have had a little watery eye going, but, I'm not going to complain because it, again, is snowing at home. So, very cool. We're enjoying it. I don't want to hold you guys up from Joby. We are about to go to our last session today. And so Joby is going to tell us all kinds of fun things about American Farm Bureau. Yeah,
American Farm Bureau, I've been involved working here for years and got to go to public relation conferences, different young farmer events, and obviously the annual meeting every year. We've gone to really cool locations. This is certainly one of those. We love that. Frankly, there's a lot of competitions at the American Farm Bureau, and I'm not going to toot our horn too much, but we are competing quite well here in Anaheim this year.
Good.
So we hope to, get some good news by the end of today. But we got a great guest to really tell us about American Farm Bureau, about what they're about, and it sounds very similar to what Kentucky Farm Bureau is about. It's just at the national level, and so I think folks are going to love listening to Joby Young with the American Farm Bureau. So.
Okay, well, I do want to let you know, if you are a member and you're like, this is very unrelatable, I don't go to AFBF. I am at home farming. I listen to this on my drive to my day job to have my insurance too. I can farm on the side. Whatever it may be, Joby does a really good job at the end of this one talking about resources at American Farm Bureau that are for you as well. So if this is not your normal thing, it's going to some of these trips, please hang in there. He's going to be a really good one. So without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
Let's get rural. Joby, the last time I bothered you this morning, I think I interrupted your bacon and eggs, but I had to make sure you know who I was because you're on a little bit of a tight schedule today. It's a little busy of a week for you. Am I right?
No, it sure is. We're kind of from one thing to the next all week because, we have so much programming here at the annual convention, and there's always, a dozen things going on at one time, and so we're kind of bouncing back and forth between all that. So it's a good time. It's a great time.
You are definitely the guy that needs to be in 4 places at once. I've got a feeling, and that, from what I understand, that's not possible. But you seem to
be
try
in
to
4
do it.
places at once.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. We try to get the second best thing though, because there's so many people here, and there's different states. Like we were here at your breakfast this morning, and other states with their groups that come in, they'll do dinners and receptions and other programming. On top of what the general convention programming is, and that's a big part of what we're all here for, to visit with each other and rekindle relationships and catch up and that kind of stuff. So it's important. It's really important.
Yeah, you do get some meals out of this at least, right?
Yeah, I gotta. It's tough. I've had to push away the dessert a couple times. Otherwise, you leave. Especially coming right after the holidays, like we are here. It's sort of an early convention, and so I'm trying to cut back on my dessert and the bread, so that the clothes I packed will fit me when I leave. So
we do call it the Farm Bureau 15 at Kentucky, and I cannot imagine doing the AFBF one. I mean, I tell everyone there is a women's chair in every county that has the best dessert in this side of the state, so I got to be nice. I got to try it. I mean, that's just what it is.
Well, people ask me what, every once in a while you'll be talking to folks, what's the biggest challenge of the job? And that, I use that as my example sometimes. It's just like maintaining your weight, because of how much we eat in Farm Bureau. But so it's great though, but a blessing and a curse, I suppose.
Well, right. Yeah, we appreciate you sitting with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump in. For those that don't know you, I think we are blessed in Kentucky. We have a wonderful AFBF staff, and I think maybe your first couple months on the job, we got to sneak you in to get introduced at our annual meeting. Yeah. And so, but for those that maybe never made it, who are you? What do you do for American Farm Bureau, and where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm executive vice president at American Farm Bureau. So under President Duvall, I lead our staff and work with states to accomplish our goals and all that. But I'm from Georgia. I grew up in Georgia, about 30 miles west of Atlanta. The area I grew up when I was growing up was a pretty rural area, but as it goes in a lot of places, a lot of folks in Kentucky that are around some of your urban areas get this, but it's a bit more of a suburban area now as things go. But I grew up on a horse farm. So we weren't in production agriculture, but my family was in the quarter horse business. We bred and raised and trained and raced quarter horses is what we did. Wow. Cool. So my dad was a jockey, when I was, actually kind of before I was born, and then that was a business they had, training that amongst other things. So I grew up on a 9-acre horse farm in Georgia, which, at a lot of places you go and you're talking to folks that are in production agriculture, and they're not as familiar with that piece. Maybe a bit more familiarity in Kentucky, of course. So I hope some of your members can identify with me there. So, but yeah, I grew up that way. I had a lot of family down in South Georgia, which my dad's from, which is, as you guys might know, that's more of your sort of row crop. That's your cotton and peanuts and specialty crop area down there. And so, I was raised around a lot of that. Just being down there when I was growing up. But when I graduated from law school, I went to UGA, go Dogs, and went there for undergrad in law school. And when I graduated law school, I ended up through one, walking through open doors and the things that are the sort of opportunities given to you. I ended up working for Lieutenant Governor in Georgia, and that led me to work for a guy who was running for Congress, and he was from South Georgia, from Tifton, Georgia, which is his name's Austin Scott. He's a vice chair of the Ag Committee right now. Today he's still in Congress, and so I went to work for Austin. He represented that big ag area where a lot of my family was from. Yeah. So that was pretty cool getting to go and work for him. When he was elected to Congress, he hired me to be his chief of staff, and so he was on the ag committee, given the district. He was on the Armed Services Committee too. So I worked on ag issues while working for him in Congress, and then Secretary Perdue is from Georgia, who was the agriculture secretary, of course, for the first Trump administration. And so I had known him and worked with him, a lot of people in his circle. And so when he came to town to be secretary, he asked me to come work for him, and I did a bunch of jobs for him, ended up being his chief of staff the last couple of years he was there. And so, got the opportunity from that, to work, with ag folks across the country. And that was a cool evolution of my career, Because, of course, I'd work, for instance, just Farm Bureau. I'd work with Georgia Farm Bureau, working for a Georgia congressman. We grew up, we were Georgia Farm Bureau members when I was growing up, and but got to be introduced to Kentucky Farm Bureau and Oregon Farm Bureau and California and Maine, everybody else, and so that was cool. And then I went through that and had a short stint with my own consulting firm working on ag issues and other things, and then came to AFBF.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that everyone's path to their places is so interesting. We ask everybody from just a standard, typical farmer in Kentucky to a lot of different folks that we interview, and I think you get your path really helps you dictate kind of your how you see an organization. What was it about Farm Bureau, especially at the national level, that was attractive to you to maybe step out of the one side of it and go on the other side of kind of the political element of it? And what was it about American Farm Bureau that really stuck out to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, as I just shared with you, my prior positions I had, we worked with Farm Bureau a lot, right, across the country, and had a lot of exposure that way. And so, I knew who Farm Bureau was, worked closely with them on policy issues and other things over the years. And, God opens doors for you sometimes, and I've experienced that virtually everything I've ever done. And so just kind of walking through the doors that open to you. So many of your members listening to this, you remember Dale Moore, who was my predecessor in this position. And Dale had been chief of staff at USDA too, and he's sort of, much beloved figure, been around, mentor of mine. So I learned that Dale was retiring, and ended up talking to President Duvall, and they went through a selection process. And so, of course, I jumped at the opportunity to come work at AFBF and work at Farm Bureau, just knowing, the power of the organization and the membership and the mission you have, and all those sorts of things. So that's kind of what led me to be here. And I've been here, I guess, 3.5 years now about. So it's been great.
So talk to us, I think, the scale, and we just interviewed. We interview a lot of different people from different states, and so the sizes of Farm Bureau, the sizes of county Farm Bureaus, they all vary. I think people may be interested, what is the staff size at AFBF? If they've ever made it to D.C., sometimes we get to run across the road. We're lucky, we're right across the road at the hotel, so we run over and see you guys sometimes. How many are you managing, and is everyone kind of in different sectors up there?
Yeah, we hover around 100 people, give or take, just right under that. And of course, that's folks that are doing policy and advocacy work, doing our lobbying. That's a communication staff that does this really important piece, speaking to the public, speaking to our non-ag audiences about what we're doing and what the perspectives are of farmers and ranchers. We have a few folks that do, our campaign schools and our political activities and our advocacy activities. We have a team of economists. That's one of our most popular products. We put out a lot of the things that they produce. We have a whole staff that does all the leadership training and manages our foundation and that does ag literacy work. Of course, we're here at the convention. It takes a really talented team to work with all of our state staff across the country, put on this annual convention, bring 4,500 or 5,000 members to wherever the location is that year, and put that on. And then all the folks that support all that work across the organization, of course, and so it's a really cool group. And of course, we're working as American Farm Bureau staff. We're doing work on behalf of members, that everything we do is in close partnership with states, as you guys know. And so that's a really cool project too, because I kind of, I don't have 100 coworkers. I got a couple, hundreds across the country, and that's really cool, just to work sort of arm in arm with folks on all this. And that's a really cool piece about Farm Bureau, but not just the staff, really, because we're here at the convention. I'm seeing people that are members that we serve, and sometimes it feels like we're coworkers in a sense, because we're all kind of in it together, and we're all kind of we're all on the team, and we all have our part to play, and that's really cool too. I like to say that as a staff, we do a lot of work to kind of set the ball up on the tee, and our members sort of knock it home in a lot of the work we do, whether it's that advocacy with policymakers, or whether it's folks that do a great job, you just kind of producing social media videos and all these sorts of things that go on. It's really the members that's a pretty cool piece of the job. Yeah,
I was going to speak to that. I think that's one thing that's unique to us. We just did I'm one of the video guys at Farm Bureau, and we did a behind the scenes of kind of how our annual meeting goes together. And, we showed our staff, and it really is staff and members host that event. Yeah. It's a moment, and that's almost at every level. Every committee is some staff folks. and members, and that's got to be unique as someone that, you know, in your role, you get to probably interact with folks like you in different organizations. How unique is that, you know, from your view? You know, a regular member here in Kentucky probably doesn't see it, but you see that's a unique thing. We're not just as staffs in your role and our role serving members. They're serving with us. We're helping each other go do that work, right?
Yeah, it's very unique, actually. And I tell the story all the time that I do interact with folks that have similar roles to me, you know, these other folks that are sort of executives and trade associations from other industries, you know, banking or finance or healthcare or, you know, construction or whatever it might be. You know, there's all types, you know, that might be similar to Farm Bureau in that way that represent some constituency. And people tell me all the time from those other industries, and some of them are, you know, they're sort of these titans of industry. They're representing, you know, big, you know, companies and corporate, you know, blue chip names we all recognize, and, you know, they got, you know, that sort of profile, but they're all jealous of us often because we have this secret weapon, you know, that they don't have when they're doing their advocacy, which is this sort of really committed, talented, energized, involved membership base that comes alongside them, you know, gets in the driver's seat, tells their story, and really, you know, changes the narrative. I mean, a lot of the program we've had this week, you know, we're talking about those stories. A big part of the convention is celebrating the success she's had in the last year. And so we know it's been tough out there in our industry, you know. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that we've done over the year where we've had victories and we've changed the course of policy, and something the administration's doing or Congress is doing or what the public conversation looks like. And it could have been a lot different, a lot more negative if we hadn't had these key moments where our members were, you know, they sort of came in, you know, parachuted in and saved the day with their stories and with their perspectives, and really how persuasive that can be.
Yeah. That actually tees off perfect into kind of where I wanted to go. You talk about we as staff, I work in our commodities division, and just to give another shout out, y'all's economist team is phenomenal. I think poor Danny has to answer more questions, and that man is on vacation shooting me texts back. I don't know anyone that probably has a worse work-life balance because he sends me a dairy question or answer every time. But anyway, we love that team. But there is a balance as a staffer of it's been a tough year. So I want to be positive and not dwell in the bad, but I also don't want to come off tone deaf. I understand this has been tough. I understand that we didn't fix everything. How do I make a positive spin, but make the realistic conversation of, no, I get it, it's not perfect, but let's celebrate some of those wins. We do that, and we struggle with that on a state that's a 9-hour drive end to end that goes from mountains to flat crop ground. I cannot imagine how challenging that is for your team to do that from the entire United States and Puerto Rico. So talk to us when it comes to balancing the conversation or balancing the issues. Kind of how do you guys do that? What's the conversation like, and who's kind of those team leads? I know we've talked so much about our farmer leaders, and I'm sure that's going to be part of the answer, but it's got to be a challenge knowing what direction to go when.
Yeah, well, we are the nation's largest general purpose farm organization, and we're the biggest tent in agriculture representing farmers and ranchers, and so many people that are partners with farmers and ranchers too. And so, as you guys know, we're gonna have this delegate session meeting, and that's where we kind of get our policy, we get our playbook, you know, our priorities that our members tell us, hey, this is what we care about, this is our perspectives, and then it's our job to go out and do the best job possible of delivering results against that. And so, I mean, that is a enormously also unique aspect of Farm Bureau, is that it's not some sort of limited committee coming up with what the organization's going to focus on. It's thousands of members across the country going through this thoughtful democratic process to talk through the issues and debate them, and you got 100 different opinions about any one thing, and sort of go through that discussion to arrive at something that's the consensus view of how we're going to go out, what we're going to advocate on, and the story we're going to tell and focus on, and so forth. And so we go and do that. You know, of course, there's always some sort of gray area in between the written policy, and we have to sort through that, and we have to use our judgment a little bit. And then if we need to, you know, because we're trusted to go and figure out the best path to do that, right? I mean, everybody wants to win the ball game. You gotta trust the coach and the players on the field sometimes to figure out the best way to navigate that. And then, of course, we go back to the board. You know, Mr. Melton's on the board, and there's always questions throughout the year where we go, hey, you know, we need a sense of how we interpret this, and that's a big part of what the board's job is. The American Farm Bureau Board is to help interpret that and give us direction, and they've done that, and so it works, and you're all with that many lists. So we have many folks listen know we have a big policy book that covers a lot of things, and we have a smaller document that the board votes on as a kind of our strategic, policy issues we need to focus on, and so we go and focus on those things. And if you look at that document, some things we've made progress on, other things are sort of, they're really tight knots that we're trying to unwind. It can be difficult sometimes. And so we're always trying to do that, of course. And but the work continues, and it always will. And it's particularly acute right now, right, because of the situation out in the countryside and in the farm economy. And but we'll keep working on these things.
Yeah. So you're a busy man. You got some stuff to do. But really, the big question, I think, this is Delegate Day. This podcast will post. What are you, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what are some issues that you're seeing nationally that seem to be a consensus that's kind of a discussion point all over the United States? Yeah,
well, not just on Delegate Day, but throughout the convention, where, you're sitting here in the hallway and you're talking to folks throughout meetings. Of course, the farm economy is the big thing right now, and what that looks like, and sort of both the temporary measures. We see things like the bridge payments or the bridge program that was just announced. But what's the next stage of that? We've articulated that we're so appreciative of that program, but there's more work to be done, both broadly across the farm economy, and then in some areas, and especially crops and others, that there's more work to be done there. Farm labor. Of course, we saw some victories with the wage rate and other things in recent months, but we really need that sort of comprehensive solution. Trade, of course, creating this foreign market demand. These other long-term solutions that we're pushing for. We're waiting on the president to sign the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, so that was a big victory. We're hurtling towards hopefully what we hope is a finish line, getting an end zone on year-round E15. These are things that create domestic demand that we got to put a lot of little solutions together to get the farm economy back on a long-term positive trajectory. And so those are things we're working on. And then this public, last thing I mentioned today, there's a lot of them. Of course, we got limited time, but the conversation around the Make America Healthy Again, that continues on. That's become a big public conversation about the health and safety of food, which, you guys know, our members love having that conversation. They like for people to be curious about food and interested in their food, because sometimes there's this thing where we say, people only think their food comes from the grocery store and they don't understand it. Well, they're not, a lot more people are curious about that, and we want to have that discussion, and we want to do it in a facts-based way and make sure they know farmers and ranchers feed their families. They live on farms where they produce it. They care deeply about the health and safety of that as a starting point, and have a great story to tell about the health and safety of it in their production practices too. So that's going to be an ongoing thing as well. So we'll see, maybe some of those things pop up in the delegate session and different proposals, and then continue past that as we go into 2026 and go out here.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do one last question. It's usually Matt, so I'm stealing it. I am a County Farm Bureau member, and maybe my county doesn't have the funds, or my farm, I just took it over. I don't have time to go to Anaheim. I don't have time to go to AFBF convention. What would your suggestion be on how to interact, or what are some cool output tools you guys have from American Farm Bureau that can keep me as a county member in Kentucky kind of engaged and involved, even if I don't maybe have the time and the stage in my production, in my operation, to be able to fly across the country to kind of take the real whole thing in?
Yeah. So I appreciate you asking that question, because that's what Farm Bureau is about in large part, is folks join it, and one of the big values they have is that they can advance in their leadership journey and gain their skills and communicating and outreach, and there's business training and these sorts of things in the leadership journey they can have. And so we offer a lot of American. I don't want to pick between favorites here, because our staff produces a lot of stuff, of course. But I will say, you can see all the stuff we're up to at fb.org. Which is the American Farm Bureau website. But I'd just call out a couple things that come to mind. You mentioned the economist team, that the market intels we put out. Mm-hmm. If you want to come up to speed on kind of what dig a little deeper in issue and be able to talk about it intelligently. I mean, this is a little trade secret that I use because I go to that and I use it. Whenever I talk about a lot of things, so every once in a while I'm like, man, I don't really remember the details on that issue, so I print them out, and I become an expert after 10 minutes because they do such a good job of putting together those market intels that kind of dig deeper into some of the issues, but in a digestible way. You don't have to be some sort of academic professor reading a 100-page paper. It's a 5-page thing a lot of times, and so that's a great one. And then we do something called our action alerts, our nationwide action alerts, and that's where you sign up, and then we'll send you when there's an opportunity to engage on an issue, and send an email, reach out to a lawmaker. And we, people aren't getting spammed by us. It's just, 1, 2, 3 times a year, there's a really important issue. Mm-hmm. So that's one. And we do have a resource called Farm Bureau University where there's sort of a whole suite of things that somebody can go and log in, register that as a Farm Bureau member, and they can do sort of, I'd call it like an online alerting sort of thing, videos and modules to get better at a variety of things. So that's just to call out a few. There's more too. Go to fb.org and look at that.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you. Yeah.
We cannot thank you enough. We have snuck you into a very tight window, and we cannot be appreciative enough of you being over here, of the convention you guys put on. The speakers have been phenomenal, as always. California has been open and welcome to us, and we hope to make this a regular thing, so maybe see us next year when we're in Charlotte. But thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, and I always appreciate visiting with you guys and being in Kentucky, and you have a great membership, and I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Joby, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and listen to some older episodes, and we'll see you next time on Let's Get Rural.